Before we start, for a person that's going to be watching this conversation for the first time and being introduced to you for the first time, what do you do? What do you stand for?
I'm a marketing and brand strategist by profession.
Okay.
And for many years, my biggest clients were American.
Hey, Rutendo Matinyarare.
I was having big clients, the big corporates, fast-moving consumer goods producers, marketing products to Africa. And then I read a book that told me that America's biggest weapon to the world is consumption.
Yes.
They've forced and persuaded people to consume and to consume unnecessary things and to make people addicted to that consumption, that people no longer serve interests that are supposed to advance them because they want to consume more. And that is
America's biggest weapon
is
getting other nations to be consumers.
Absolutely.
Hectic.
Our passion for cars, our passion for cell phones, the latest iPhone 14 and games. Fast foods.
Pharmaceuticals. People have become addicted to what they call medicine.
100%. And that is how the Americans have captured us. And I even say, many people say that China is actually going to take over from America. I think China is already captured by this American syndrome. That's why the Chinese are so brand conscious. And by being brand conscious, you've been defeated by the Americans through consumption.
But the Chinese are also getting us to consume.
But them getting to consume with factories that are funded by American money, controlled by BlackRock, controlled by Fidelity, controlled by State Street, controlled by the big four shadow banks of America, actually means that Chinese consumption is actually American profit.
Jeez. Sorry, what? After you read the book, did it change you?
Yes. So the moment I realized that my job was to advance consumption, and I'm doing that at the detriment of Africa, which has no image, no identity, no brand. People don't want to be African or associated with being African. Our youth, including myself when I grew up, it's all about American culture. We want to speak like Americans. We want to act like Americans. We want to dress like Americans. I realized that I shouldn't be focusing on getting Africans to be consumers. I should be focusing on rebuilding the psychology and the brand of Africa for young African youth to want to be African once again, for young African youth to identify as Africans and to establish what it is that Africa is supposed to give to the world. And it is bringing out that essence and promise that Africans stand for that I now am dedicated to. And so part of the program of me redeeming Zimbabwe's image was to fight sanctions, because sanctions were saying we're punishing this government for violating human rights. And for that reason, we've put it under sanctions until it transforms. That was a nonsense story. It was about punishing Zimbabweans for taking their land and empowering their people. And I needed the world to know that. And the way to make the world know that was to fight sanctions, take it into the international arena, take it to the UN and get the UN to make a pronouncement that the sanctions on Zimbabwe were actually illegal. They were not about human rights violations, but it was about the West violating Zimbabwe and trying to keep it down so that it cannot use its educated workforce, its resources and its land to improve its people's lives.
Still doing brand and strategy, but more for the upliftment of Africans and the African psyche.
100%.
Thank you.